Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session of EduBright University webinar. Today's topic is about compliance management. So we'll discuss how LMS can be effectively utilized in a compliance management scenario. And today's presenters are Brian Rush and Manish Gupta. And I am your host, Ajay Upadhyay. I will be moderating any questions. Feel free to post it in your GoToWebinar chat panel, and we'll take the questions as we go along or towards the end. Any questions, if you cannot post in the session, you can of course ask on the EduBright communities on university.edubright.com. So with this, Brian, I will hand over the session to you. You can start.
Thank you, Ajay. Here's the agenda we're going to cover today. So first of all, what is compliance? We're going to talk about what we mean by compliance and compliance management. And then we're going to talk about regulated industries and tracking compliance, how that can be done. And then LMS features that facilitate managing compliance. Then we're going to go to demonstration, and then we'll do a wrap up with the summary and any questions that you all might have for us. Feel free to go ahead and post in the meanwhile, though, and we'll wrap them up at the end. So what is compliance? The term compliance refers to how well business firms, companies, corporations, and organizations ensure that they are following all rules, regulations, and policies. It encompasses the development, implementation, and monitoring of all practices, procedures, and training. Without such practices, the business is susceptible to risk and legal liability. Managing compliance in many industries can be a monumental task. Industries such as the payment card industry, healthcare, aviation, information security, financial, pharmaceutical, engineering, biotech, manufacturers, energy, and many other industries are all required to deliver mandatory compliance training and be ready to verify its completion for auditors at any time. This is in addition to more typical HR-related compliance requirements of companies in general. One can get pretty lost in the alphabet soup of acronyms of government and industry regulations and standards out there, even in just the US alone. For example, information security regulations exist to help protect against data breach. Financial regulations protect against fraud, and safety regulations are designed to protect workers from harm. Examples in the United States include the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, safety regulations, and SOC2, Service Organization Controls, for cloud data security. Worldwide standards include the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, born out of the European Union in 2018, and are driving higher and tighter international standards as well. While they only protect European citizens, corporations worldwide that serve them must adhere to this toughest privacy and security law in the world. Completion of mandated training on these regulations needs to be tracked and well documented with periodic audits to validate having complied. Standards include workplace and manufacturing quality standards such as the ISO 9000 series, the QS 9000 series, which is particularly suited for the US auto industry, and good manufacturing practice standards. In startup organizations and maturing corporate entities, tracking compliance training is often done with spreadsheets and even more arcane methods of text documents and paper and pencil. These workarounds may seem plausible at the time, but are not truly addressing the business need and are actually very short-sighted. If you do some analysis around the true cost of current methods, it's helpful to estimate the additional headcount and hours of administrative burden that makeshift solutions are costing the business, albeit indirectly. Being cognizant of the effort required for accurate reporting at the time of audit and the increased potential for human error and intentional altering can also assist in this analysis. Either way, you're going to pay. It's just a matter of which currency type, whether it's time or money. Further justification can be made with risk mitigation analysis. Assessing risks allows you to not only identify discrepancies and their likelihood of occurring, but also their potential impact on your business. Paying fines for noncompliance of federal, state, and international regulations can be far more costly than the upfront cost of purchasing and implementing a system with accurate auditable data. For example, of a fine, GDPR penalties max out at 20 million euros or 4% of global revenue, whichever is higher. Furthermore, data subjects have the right to seek compensation for damages through litigation. By reviewing and tracking how much money any compliance violations may cost your business, it will help justify your business case for requesting budget to mitigate these compliance issues with a more robust and suitable solution, and can go in your project charter in support of the business need. In regulated industries, one must be able to demonstrate that thorough and secure procedures are in place and to assure the auditors that training programs are adhered to and completed fully. SOPs are controlled documents and the basis for training measures, standards for operations, and employee accountability. From a training perspective, they are useful for learners' acknowledgement of having read and understood regulated standard operating procedures, as well as any successive revisions of them as they inevitably evolve. In some companies with policy management, the official control document may reside in a document control system or a quality management system, while a copy of the SOP can be signed off on in the LMS by the learner as having been trained on and agreeing to abide by the procedure. In regulated industries, one must be able to demonstrate their skills and competencies in using certain equipment or properly following safety procedures in order to be qualified for a role or task. Observational assessments are especially relevant in the manufacturing, automobile, and healthcare industries, where specialized technique validation is crucial. So a good example of this might be assembly line workers having to use a particular machine and need to be qualified to use that machine, or welding, they might have to do particular type of welds to be certified before they can do body work, for example. So observational assessments are very handy in this particular arena, and especially if they're tablet enabled so that they can be brought to that assembly line and done in the actual environment. Auto assignment can schedule courses and classes based on employment status and role changes as learners are added to appropriate groups. So for new hires that are filling a new role or an existing role, they'll need to do new hire training, and then they'll also need to do the certifications and new courses that apply specifically to their new role. And likewise, when somebody changes a role, they'll have new training to go along with it as well, potentially some SOPs to sign off on as well. Integration of the learning management system with an HRIS system, HR information system that is, can greatly facilitate these auto assignments so that when new hires and changes happen in the HR system, they'll be automatically reflected in the LMS as well. Certifications. In regulated industries, employees are required to be certified before being on the job and need to be recertified on a regular basis to remain qualified. This need can be driven by legislation or by standards imposed by a specific industry or company. Examples include workers in the nuclear industry or air traffic control who need to keep up skills up to date and at optimal performance levels. Support for recurring certifications greatly facilitates this. So if they have, this year is 2020, they've just earned that certificate, they want to maintain a certification, having an LMS that supports recurring certifications greatly facilitates that. Likewise, with notifications, automatic notifications to managers and their direct reports upon failure to complete compliance training on time is another necessity. Automated notifications of any upcoming expiration, ideally with an admin configurable advance notice, and auto reminders continue reminding until the training is completed. For reporting, real-time data is important so that you can be prepared to show your compliance numbers to auditors at any moment and know that it is current. So somebody that just took training yesterday is in the system, or even this morning if it's real time. You need to be able to create your own ad hoc reports on the fly so that you have access to any combination of data that auditors might ask for outside the canned reports that the system provides out of the box. And then you need to be able to schedule automated reports that are pushed to the manager's inboxes on their direct reports, including current and upcoming expirations of theirs, so that they can be proactive and maintain the compliance. With that, it's time for a demonstration, and I'll pass this over to Manish.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. Let me share my screen here. So what I'm going to do is, Brian has provided wonderful details about what are some of the things which you should be looking in the LMS. And of course, I'm going to demonstrate some of these at a very high level in the EduBite LMS. So this is some of the items which I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you just a very quick user experience, and there's going to be pretty targeted demonstration on the user's experience on the how they can manually acknowledge if they're taking some courses, if it's set up accordingly, or the notification would be received. Notification is pretty comprehensive in EduBite, so both user as well as manager receives notifications if the certain activities happen. For example, if something is due, or a reminder notification, or if it is expired or completed, or there's also an automated reporting for managers which they receive on a certain frequency, and that is configurable, like it could be daily, weekly, or monthly, which manager can receive, so that they can basically review the progress of their team and make sure that their team is in compliance of and meeting the organizational requirements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the quick user experience. So let me go on to the platform here and go as a user. So I have logged in as a user in this particular case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in one of the course which this user is enrolled into and launch this course, just to quickly show you that how that particular functionality works. So this is a typical course in EduBite, a hierarchical structure, or the outline you would see, where you have organized the different lessons inside the module in the course outline, as you can see. And here you can see that some of the things, depending upon your need for a compliance, what you can do is you can make those items mandatory or optional. So for example, the first 3 lessons are optional, but the next here you would see in this particular module some of the items are mandatory. In addition to that, another thing which can be done depending upon the requirement of a compliance, if you want user needs to view certain items fully or spend certain amount of time, those kind of business rules you can do. But for the time being, in this particular scenario, I'm going to show you a quick the manual acknowledgement. So let me just start this course here. And this is an optional lesson, so I can just quickly skip over this lesson, which is a PowerPoint with the voiceover and the animation. So now I'm on to a document, which is basically a Word document. You can see it's a 3-page document, and user can review this document, and so they can basically click the next to go to the next, and they can further click to go to the next. And now you would see the moment they complete. So this was a document, it's set up like they need to view fully. So once the user is on the last page of it, then one of the requirements which is being met, that user has to go through all the pages which are there in this document. But in addition to that, there is a sign off option of a manual acknowledgement here. So user has to sign off this, and once they sign off on this, then only they will be able to continue. And you can see the subsequent lessons here are locked. So the lock will only open when this manual acknowledgement is done. And this is manual acknowledgement you can set up with any of the lesson desired inside a course. And then also the messaging also you can control. So maybe for one course you can have one messaging here which you are seeing when I'm mouse hovering it, or for the second course you can have a different types of messaging. So you can do that. So let me just manually acknowledge it. The moment I manually acknowledge it, you can see that I met the necessary condition here, and the next item is open. So let me go to the next item here. So you can see as you're going through the next item here, these are basically as you're viewing the mandatory items, the subsequent items are getting open. So this is the example of the manual acknowledgement. Regarding an e-signature, essentially anytime you're completing a course successfully, EduBrite keeps track of the date and time stamp of that, and essentially that becomes your signature of completing the course, which is available in your transcript, or manager has a ability to view that. Now, from the notification perspective, it might be easier for me to show you that on the LMS administrator side, just to give you a little bit broad perspective of the capabilities that are available in the platform. So in the site admin area, you will see the email settings are available, and I have that open here. So you can see this email setting is, there's a global setting related to the email, which you can control here. So if you want to send for example, this email notification, there's a instructor-led session is coming up, and you want to mark the user's calendar, you will be able to send those notifications into your Google Calendar, iCal, or Outlook, those kind of things. So you can control some of those things. But what is more important here is these different notifications that are generated by the system. So for example, I'll just talk a couple of them which may be which are actually relevant here, but other may be relevant also. So for example, here, if you look at the course session access begin reminder, or if you look at this validity expiration reminder, these are some of the notification essentially which are more like a reminder type of a notification that when user has to begin or when user has to complete. Similarly, there are some completed reminder notifications are available there, so which basically essentially informs the users about the course which they have completed. In addition to the users, you would also see that some of the reminder notifications where you see either a site admin or the instructor, those are just the different roles you would set up in the system. And once you have the proper role set up in the system, the managers essentially would receive the notification, whether it's a reminder or a due notification, or it's a completion notification. So you have a full flexibility of setting up these various reminder notification in the platform to make sure that users are and their managers are being informed on a timely basis so that they can take the necessary action. In addition to these notifications, there is also the reporting which Brian discussed is available. So for example, if you go on to the course enrollment report here, there is an option here in the course enrollment report that you can schedule these reports, and you can schedule these reports on any frequency which you would like to, and you can define some of the details regarding the column and filter, and then you can basically define who it should go out to. So you also have a option available for the managers to receive these notification for their team specific. So they will only receive the progress of their team, that who are enrolled, what is their progress, who have completed, that kind of details would be visible to them there in their inbox of an email. So that can also be done from here. Now the next item which I want to show from the users, the administrator perspective, is the assignment overview or the observational assessment. So the observational assessment essentially, as it says that the expert or the instructor or the trainer is basically going in person, meeting with the learners and actually viewing what activities they are performing, and then accordingly they are marking their progress. So this essentially is done in EduBrite through a functionality called the assignment management. So let me just go on to the this assignment management. So the way assignment management works essentially is there's just a high level workflow. So any courses which are assigned to the user can contain some of the assignment options that which user has to complete their work or show their work. And then it would be available for the instructor or managers to view it. So that's a one option. So they can perform the activity and then they can submit it and manager and instructor can view. The second thing is managers can go directly onto the where the learners are working and then basically view their progress and then essentially mark their progress onto that. So essentially that's the idea. And if there is any if they're satisfied with that, then they would grade it. Otherwise, if they're not satisfied, then they can send it for a rework. So basically they're asking learners to reperform that activity. So that workflow is available here. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go back as the end user here, and I'm going to show you one of the assignment management workflow. So for example, if this user, I have a course here in which this user can this user is going through some of the online material here, but after viewing the online material, you can see this assignment pops up, which has a due date, points, some details are there. There could be some tasks assigned there. This is a doc, the Word document which is available, so they can view, download, and view it. And once they have performed their work, then as a evidence of their completion, they can submit their work in an image or a video or a Word file, whatever format is more suitable for them. So then they can simply come here and then they can select a file here, and then simply they can go here and they can select one of the files. So let me just quickly go here and select one of the file from here. So and upload it. So you can see they can upload one file or they can upload multiple files here, and they can provide some notes here about their submitting their assignment. And once the assignment is being submitted, then it would be available for the instructor or the manager to view it and complete it. So let's just review that workflow real quick here. So on the My Item side, you would see the option of assignment. So if you click on that option, I already have this window open, so you can go here and you can see the different assignments which are available across different courses. So this is the one basically which we have just done. So you can see how many people have been assigned this particular assignment, how many have submitted, how many have not attempted. And similarly in the other one, you can see that there are some people who are even working on the assignment and some people have not attempted. So you have that kind of a visibility. So let me just go here on the submitted. So as the manager or the LMS administrator, you would be able to see these different assignments. Those are being submitted. And if you need to evaluate this assignment, you can just simply click on any of the assignments. So for example, I can click on one of the assignment here, and I would be able to see this was the original assignment. I can see the response from the user where you can see this was the file that was attached by this particular user a few minutes back, which I be able to view it here, or it can be downloaded and viewed here. And then you can also see the submission remark that what they have submitted. So if you want to send for a rework, you can do that, or if you want to evaluate, you can just simply evaluate this one. So that's another option available. And this was just the file which was associated, which I opened in a new tab here. So let me just kind of a submit evaluation and complete it. So this is you can see as the status as being marked for this particular one evaluated. So you can, the way normally it works, you can create actually series of courses, and you can have a different assignment in different courses. And if needed, what you can do is with these different courses, you can Edubyte allows you to set up some of the competencies or skills essentially with this particular assignment they are completing. So those competency or skill are assigned at the course level. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open one of the program here just to quickly walk you through. So for example, I have this robotics certification. No, actually, I have this robotic design and development program, which has a multiple courses, and with some of the courses have the assignment, and with each of the courses, some level of competencies and skills are assigned. So when you run this competency report here, you would be able to see that what is the skill level of each individual who are enrolled in this particular program. And you can see, for example, there are two levels of skills or two levels of competencies which are defined here. And some of the users are in the first level and progressing there. And some of the users, for example, this particular user has completed, there are maximum you can earn 3 by the design this we have in this particular case. So you can see this particular user have reached the maximum skill in robot hand design and robot arm design, and some of the people have not even started here. For example, these are some of the examples. So these kind of reports can be produced, and it could be pretty handy to view if you're looking for just at a glance view of the user's progress on certain things which are required to perform their job. Another thing, let me go back onto the slide here, and so we talked about the observational assessment and the assignment. The another thing is the attendance tracking. The attendance tracking is useful in a scenario which is related to the observational assessment, or if there are certain activities which you need to go perform in front of your instructor and a manager. So in that case, in EduBet, you would set up the what is called as instructor-led events, and once those events are set up, then as a instructor, you would be able to, for example, this is one of the class that is set up for December 20th, and 6 people are enrolled in this particular class. You would be able to see that these are the different people who are enrolled in the class, and at the time when the December 20th, these people show up, and you basically view their activities in front of you, you can mark their attendance. So you can just simply go onto the attendance area, and you can select whomever you have attended there, and then you can see these 4 people have showed up there. And at the same time, if you want them to mark the completion, or if you want to award them if you're satisfied with their activities, you can award them a completion of this particular course that they have completed successfully. So you can save the attendance as well as you can save the award. And this is the time you can also send an email to these learners that they have completed it successfully. So that is another activity that can be performed by the manager to make sure that these audience are doing what is required by the compliance and security officer. Another thing which is important is the external training records. So we all know that not all trainings are being conducted inside the organizations. So for example, if it is more of an internal compliance, some of the activities like if you have a sexual harassment training, or if you have some trainings which are more internal to the organization, this can be performed within the organization, and your OLMS can keep track of it. But there are always some activities, those are performed, or those certifications are received outside of the organization. So it is important then for you to have a centralized system where you are keeping track of all those records. So there are a couple of ways that record can be taken, can be kept in EduBed. Number one, that any trainings that those are performed externally, those can be set up as the wrapper course. And once user completes those training successfully, essentially they have an ability to submit their certificate, and it essentially goes in their record, so that as a manager, if you are looking to view specific users, all compliances, all trainings they have completed, whether they're internal within the organization or external, you would have an ability to do that. The another thing which is very interesting is AICC publisher. So let me just first run through a quick slide here, and then I'll just explain this a little bit in more detail. So AICC is a standard essentially that allows, from an LMS perspective I'm talking, essentially, which allows a content provider to share their course to basically to anybody who wants to take that course, and they can put in their LMS. So that's essentially a very high level definition of a AICC. Now, most LMS, you would know that, or you may be aware of, support the AICC to create courses. So that's the first part of AICC. So you can get the AICC course from any content provider, third-party content provider. You can use that AICC zip file, which you get from the content provider. You can put it in LMS, and then you can essentially take those courses. So the benefit of such scenario is that the training is available outside, but your user is taking the training from within your LMS, so you have a record of that. But where it gets further interesting, that I'll give you a scenario of few training providers of EduBrite who are using the second option, which is a publisher option. What it does is that essentially, so rather than being a consumer of a AICC, where you are consuming the content provided by the third party, you can become a publisher using the other option, which is available in EduBrite. So what can happen, so if you are a training provider, if you're giving a safety related training or healthcare related training or auto related training, and it's a compliance, or it could be just the GRC related training, all those training if you are giving, then essentially you can from EduBrite, you can allow the courses in EduBrite to be available through AICC wrapper, and you can give it to the corporation. So if you are in a manufacturing industry, and if you have, and you're a training provider who provides the OSHA training, you can give the OSHA training to those different business customers. So the benefit of that in that case is that those organizations user can take those trainings within their LMS, and you have an ability to control the content right from within EduBrite LMS. So it's a kind of a pretty useful scenario which you would see here. So that's what is being displayed in this particular slide here, that you are the completion is being tracked in both LMSs, EduBrite LMS, which is giving the AICC wrapper, as well as the other LMS where this AICC wrapper has been consumed as a course in the other organizations. Going back to some of the things like, yeah, you can also set up a compliance training program. In one of the slides that was talked about, for example, if you have different SOPs for internal training, mandatory training, which you would like to do, and the applicability is there could be different SOPs, those could be available, but different team may need have a requirement of completing different SOPs. So I'm going to just kind of quickly show you one quick example here. So let me go back onto the platform here, and let me go into the program here, and I'm going to show you one of the program here. So you can see this is a program created for a corporate compliance, and you can see there are multiple SOPs. These are individual courses essentially are part of this particular compliance. So anybody who is the case scenario here is if you're a corporate employee, you'll have to go through all these 6 SOPs. But if you are maybe some departmental employee or working in a different business unit, which is not in the corporate, maybe some of a subset of this is applicable. So that so you can create another program which may have a smaller set of these SOPs. So these courses are reused in that scenario. So you don't have to create multiple courses. You just have to have the the same courses which can be used for creating multiple programs. So for example, if I open, yeah, you can see in this particular case, a subset of the courses are available here. And from the reporting perspective, if you go, for example, in the here on the program dashboard here, and if you select, so for example, the corporate, first let's select the sales team compliance. So you here, once you select the sales team compliance here, you would be able to see these different users who are enrolled, and you're tracking against these different 3 SOPs. So some of them have completed fully, some of them have not started, and some of them have completed partially. So you will be able to see that progress. And if you want to change this in view for the corporate, you can see now the number of SOPs have increased here. And again, you can see the progress of these users relatively. So that kind of options are available in EduBrite platform. Yeah, you can also set up a recurring training program in EduBrite, and it's pretty useful. A lot of these trainings, especially the some of the compliance training, are annual in nature. So whether it's anti-sexual harassment training or some of the HIPAA type of training. So EduBrite allows you to set up that, and then essentially, if it tells you the validity of your based on your completion, it tells the validity of that particular certification, and you need to retake that particular training program before the end of that validity period. And accordingly, the reporting and notifications are available. So I'm just going to quickly show you one scenario here. So let me go to one of the program here. Let me just see if it's a one program. So let me first go into the detail of this program just to kind of quickly explain. So this is again a program that is being set up. It has a collection of multiple courses. There could be one course, but in this scenario, we have multiple courses which user has to complete. And this is essentially is the setup which you would be looking for, which says that the validity of what they're doing, and then upon completion of one, they should be automatically enrolled onto the next year's the same program for the next year, those kind of things. So essentially you can do that kind of a setup, and once that setup is completed, then essentially you would be able to track their progress. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to just quickly run through one of the report that is available here, so that way you can see. So that report essentially is, let me just quickly go here, is program enrollment report, and I can just filter based on that particular recurring program here. So let me, okay, yeah. So you can see here that yeah, so you can see in this particular report that these different users are enrolled, what was their start date, what was the due date, and if in this particular case, if they have not completed it, then they have been marked late. If they have completed it successfully, it tells you the date they have completed and when is their expiration for the or what is their validity actually before they need to retake it. That kind of mechanism is available. And if yeah, this is another scenario which is useful. So for in this example, the user has taken this class before and there was expiration, but they have not taken that class or those courses further, so their validity is expired. So you can see all these details are available, and these reports are available. There are various filtering criteria available based on the expiration date, due date, completion date, start date, all those, and this report is available for download. So a user can, the manager or the, in this case, the safety officer can download these reports and view the progress and accordingly take necessary actions to make sure that team or the organization is in compliance with necessary, is in compliant. So now I have one more thing I quickly wanted to cover here. Let me go back onto the slide here. I think I've covered all the main items listed. Yeah, from the logging perspective, EduBrite also keeps track of the detailed activities here. So this is sometimes is important if you would like to get into the very detail of the users doing various activities, especially for those mandatory or compliance related courses. You can go here and then you can essentially you'll be able to, for example, if I pick one of the course here and then if I go into the details here, I'll be able to get into, there are a variety of activities which you can see, which are being tracked in EduBrite. When are they reading? When are they completing assignment? How much time they have spent on each of the lessons? So there are a lot of different activities on the back end which is being tracked, and it is available should there a need to get into a little bit more deeper analysis of any user's completion of any compliance related activity or the performing a particular option. In addition to that, we all know that there is a full user transcript that is available in the system. So in case you want to see any user's transcript, you can just simply go and view this user's transcript. So you can view the individual transcript here. You can download the transcript. You can view specific to any course, or you have an ability to view these different courses users are enrolled into and what is their corresponding status of a completion of those courses for an individual user. So you'll be able to view those information, and all this information is available for download should there be need. So with that, I think I have covered, Brian, what I wanted to cover from the demo perspective. If there are any questions, we can do that. Otherwise, we can go back onto the next slide.
Thank you, Manish. With that, we're going to look at the conclusion here in our wrap-up session. So in larger corporations and enterprises, there's typically a quality department and even potentially a chief compliancy officer who is responsible for overseeing and managing regulatory compliance issues, because it's really a lot to manage. And depending on the organization, certain departments have certain oversight committees, and there's different ways of going about it. But generally, if as the enterprise gets larger and the number of employees and the number of regulations gets larger, it helps to have this kind of setup. Regulatory compliance is only a temporary state. Basically, it's a moving target. Regulations are in a constant state of flux, and there are always revisions to manage. You want to be proactive and manage risks and weigh the odds. So don't be reactive and wait for a fine. Make sure that you've thought ahead and done the best you can with your risk management and your assignments and tracking expirations and everything, doing all your reporting in advance of the actual audit. That's the managing risks piece. And then don't meta manage. That's saying managing compliance is hard enough without having to manage how you manage it. So if you have a system in place that's going to take care of a lot of the things, you have enough to think about already with just the actual management. Doing it in a robust, accurate system will help you to do that. With that, it's time for questions and answers. And I'm going to look here and see if we have any questions. Yep. First question is, how do I know if an LMS is CFR 21 Part 11 compliant? That's a good question. That's something that the FDA mandates for certain audiences, and something we're going to cover in detail in another upcoming webinar targeted more specifically to the medical device, pharmaceutical, and biotech audiences. And then this one is from somebody, how would a read and understand work in the LMS? So that's similar to the SOPs that Manish, you were showing earlier. So that's how they would sign off on it and claim that they have read and understand it and acknowledge all of that. A follow-up question on that is, if the SOP revs up, how does that work? So in your example, Manish, if the SOP was one of those courses that somebody had to take and sign off on, and it revs up during the year, and it's not time to necessarily recertify on it yet. But it does rev up, and they have to do a delta rev acknowledgement. Is that something that can be done in EduBrite?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do that.
Great. And then last question looks like, how can an LMS help me at audit time?
Yeah, I kind of covered a variety of reporting, and one of the last report which I was showing on the activities report, right? So that report is pretty useful. So we not only keep the track of users spending the time on the courses when they're doing the courses or the different activities within the course they are performing, whether they're viewing a particular lesson, whether they are doing assignment, whether they are doing a quizzes or tests, when they are starting, when they're completing. We keep a track of a time and we log all these different activities. So, and if there is if some of these activities, like one of the example which I was giving is the assignment, are performed offline, then there is a way to keep track of it. Similarly, the manual acknowledgement. So all these kind activities are being tracked in EduBrite, and there are a variety of reports that provides the information, the transcript, and other places. But the activity report is one of the report. Ultimately, if you're looking for a really detail of the user's interaction with the LMS for a variety of activities, then that is available for safety officer or security officer or manager, whosoever is interested in viewing it.
Thank you, Manish. That's all the questions that I'm seeing right now. We have our Stay Connected slide here, and the user community is somewhere you can go to take advantage of learning that other folks have already experienced. You can also connect with the EduBrite support team here, and there's support tools in the support.edubrite.com, known as the EduBrite University. Here we have video tutorials on open learning, but we have a knowledge base and a webinar channel to show any upcoming and previous webinars that we've done, as well as a frequently asked questions section that you can see that other people may have had the same question as you. If you want to stay up to date with our release notes, you can sign up for an email to receive the information about new features and enhancements as soon as we do them. Likewise, if you want to subscribe to our blog at blog.edubrite.com, you can see what we're making of the industry and what we think about certain aspects of it and how we're working toward making EduBrite an even better platform. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter at EduBrite. With that, it's time to say thank you and appreciate your attending today. Look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.